Hello and welcome back to my channel, Bookish Lady Night, where we get a look behind the book. Today I'm joined by a new to me author, F. Henne, and she is the author behind a witchy urban fantasy series called the Lunar Order Chronicles. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me here. It's always exciting to talk about books.
Yes, and I love witchy books. Like, those are the best. I love them so much. So, for those of us, including me, can you give us kind of like a little, not spoiler, but like a spoiler of like what we should expect in reading your series?
Right. So I also have props. So let's get it so you can actually see the cover. So The Last Lunar Witch is book one in my series. It will be a 7-book series. So it's similar to like Crescent City or City of God and Monsters, where it's a fantasy world in a modern setting. So I didn't want to set it anywhere in the US or anything like that. So you have all of the different races in this world. You have witches and shifters and Nephilim and all these kind of fun people. The humans are the minority because humans are boring because we don't have magic. But this one obviously centers around Nissa, and it's not a spoiler because it's on the title. She finds out that she is the last lunar witch, and that sets her off on this journey of self-discovery and realizing that she is a bigger part to the safety of the realm. The book one is very much about her grappling with her broken magic, or what she thinks is her broken magic, and coming into herself while being thrust into all of this danger and people who are from another realm who want to take over this realm. But it is, so it's like most open fantasies, has lots of action, lots of fighting, but it also has a strong focus on the characters because found family is like my favorite trope. So there's lots of friends, lots of healthy relationships. It's low level violence and language. It will be a fade to black when you get to the romance, which is a very slow burn. But it's just about feeling good, feeling happy. Hopefully it will make you laugh a couple of times as well while tackling some bigger issues.
Love that. I'm excited to read it. That's so cool. So you have a new part of the series, I think, coming out later this year. Is that correct?
Yes. So I try to do one a year. So I have book 1, 2, and 3 that are out. Book 4, which is coming out, I think I have it as December 12th. I tried to have it earlier, but then like with Thanksgiving and everything getting in the way, it always ends up falling in between the holidays, which is the worst time, but I can't write any faster. So
I love that. So what inspired you to write in this genre?
I have always loved urban fantasy. It's just kind of like that fun, easy read that you can pick up. I really enjoyed that about it, where it has some of this world building. You don't have to fall into, because I used to read a lot of epic fantasies. So I was like, give me all the lore, give me everything. And then I was like, sometimes I just want something lighter to read.
Yeah.
And I was like, why don't I do an urban fantasy? That would be a little bit easier. I have some other like epic fantasies that are in the works, but they require a lot of world building. So these are much easier to write.
Yeah. I want to believe that there's like magic out there. So it's like that little hint to it that I'm like, well, maybe that person could be a shapeshifter and I just don't know. And they're just not telling us. Like, I love to have that like idea that it could be real.
Yes.
So I like that. So did you always want to be a writer?
Well, it depends how long ago you asked me. Growing up, I wanted to be a professional horse rider.
Ooh.
But it wasn't until it was back in, oh my God, 2004 or 5, I think it was, where I first had the inkling of like, oh, I could like write my own stories. I always like had been creative and loved that kind of thing, but it never had clicked that like I could just write the stories that I want to read. Because back then, it was always a struggle to find strong female main characters, especially ones who are like wielding swords and fighting. And I was like, oh, I want that. So that was one of the things I'm like, maybe I should write that. And then obviously it took me till 2020 to actually get a book out. But I've been wanting to write since 2004.
Oh, I love that. What was like the first book, if you remember, that you read that you were like, oh, I want to do this. This is like really cool. Do you have that book or that book now that you're like, you couldn't put down?
I mean, just in general, getting me into reading was definitely, like everyone I think in my generation, was Harry Potter. I really didn't read except when like school made me. And then obviously reading that series, having that, I mean, again, technically it's an urban fantasy, as weird as it is, but it's just having that magical world, that accessible story that everyone could relate to. There was another one that I think actually kind of kicked it off. I think it was called The Named. It was by an Australian author, and I cannot remember who it was. But again, it was like these kids who just were going to high school, and then they were also part of this magical world, and they traveled like in different times, and it was so much fun. And one of our English classes was like, "Hey, why don't you like write a sequel?" And so you just had to write this scene. And I wrote this really, like, maybe it was my teenage self, this angsty scene about the male main character realizing that the girl he thought he loved is actually a soulmate to someone else. And my teacher was just like, "What is this?" But it was just there. I'm good at torturing my characters, I guess.
I love that. I love that. So within writing this story, is there a scene, without giving too much away, that you can tell us that like kind of had you like laughing out loud, or a moment in the book that kind of you were like cackling like the rest of us will be when we read it?
So in book one, there is, I mean, it's not really a spoiler because I promote this book. My character will find her familiar, who is a magical fox who can talk to her telepathically. And it was just so much fun to write this sassy little fox. And she just like has these like great one-liners. In book three, she has some fantastic lines that I was just like cackling as I wrote them, because in book three is when the romance kind of kicks off.
Uh-huh.
And obviously she can hear all of my character's thoughts about what she's thinking about this guy. And so she's just like, "If you don't say yes right now, or maybe you should do this next time." And my character's like blushing, and the guy's like, "What is going on?"
I
So
love that.
it's lots
I
of
love
fun.
that. I'm excited. So, who was like the hardest main character for you to write?
I didn't really struggle with any of them because they're all very unique, and it was a lot of fun to write. I think one of the hardest things would be writing Nissa, my main character, because especially in book one, she struggles with a lot of self-doubt, which is something I think a lot of us do and what I do. And so a lot of her thoughts were like the negative self-talk that I hear myself. And I was like, I don't want her to sound whiny, but I'm like, this is what I'm feeling, and I know other people would be feeling it too. So I was trying to make sure that I have that balance of hearing her negative self-talk, trying to build herself up. And she's very much like a reluctant hero. She's kind of thrust into all of this mayhem, and she doesn't want to be part of it. She's like, she's an alchemist, so she's a healer. She's like, I don't want to hurt people, but all of these like demons are coming and trying to kill me. It's like, but she doesn't want to kill them. So it was kind of getting that conflict without making her feel like a goody two shoes. And she's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I'm just the perfect little angel," kind of thing.
Yeah. And then was there a side character that kind of like took you by surprise that you didn't think that they would have had as big of a role as they ended up having?
A lot of them, actually. It's funny, they kind of like, I have a lot of characters who come up in the first book because Nissa like goes to this new city. So she's meeting a lot of people, she's getting a job. And I really wasn't sure what kind of roles a lot of these people were going to have. And it's probably the guy who becomes her best friend, which I didn't realize would become her best friend, that he really kind of was like her emotional support and has been kind of throughout it. And he ended up having a lot more of a role. Originally, it was just like, oh, she needs to like make contact with the enforcers, with like the police force there. And so she makes and has a friendship with this guy, and just thinking it's just for that. But their relationship really grows through book one. And they become, him and her sister become a real emotional support for Nissa when she has like no one in this new city.
Okay. I like that. I always love it when characters, like side characters, you think something about them and then they become like really bossy and like, I'm staying. I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm staying. So I really like that. So, out of your characters, who do you think is most like you?
It's Nissa, of course. I wish I was like her familiar and was all sassy with these like fantastic one-liners, but it's definitely Nissa, except I don't have really cool magic and I can't do alchemy. But it's just that strong sense of self, wanting to do good, wanting to help people. And I'm sure if I was in a situation like that, I'd be like, I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to be doing this. This is
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah. Are you like me that like after the fact you're like, "Oh, I should have said that." Like, and you like replay the conversation and your
Yeah.
one-liners come in later?
Oh, yeah. Like, oh, why didn't I say that? That would have been good.
Exactly. So do you think you're more of a pantser, a plotter, or I just heard a term called a quilter.
I don't know that one. I refer to it as gardening because it is
Gardening.
both. So I do need a strict structure, but it's not like a very down to the scene level. So I like to find out I think it's like my 7 like key moments. So it's like every like 15%. I'm like, okay, what is the scene? What is this turning point? So that I can understand like the plot arc as well as the character arc. And then with this series, after I wrote book 1, I actually planned out the whole series so that I knew what was happening. I knew all the beats. And then sometimes I go in a little bit more detail, and so I'll have a couple bullet points per like quarter, and then I go in and pants the scenes. Like, okay, in this scene, Nissa needs to go and get a job at the coffee shop. And so then I'll just pants the whole scene.
Okay.
So it's very much like keeping it spontaneous, but I need to have some structure. My very first draft of book 1, I scrapped the whole thing. I wrote 80,000 words, and then I was like, this isn't the story I want to tell. And I got rid of, I think I saved maybe like 4,000 words, and I rewrote the whole thing. Yeah, it was a lot of work, but it was worth it.
Was it painful? Like as you were doing it, like I feel like that would be hard.
I mean, it was stressful because so I wrote book 1 as part of a publishing derby. So we had a set amount of time. So I had, it was like, you're meant to write the book in 2 months and then edit it for a month. And then I think it came up, was it only 3 months? I think it was 3 months. So I wrote it, realized when I was getting feedback, this isn't the story I want to told. And in the month I was meant to be editing, I rewrote the whole thing. It was very exhausting and I burnt myself out. Don't do that.
Kudos to you. I think that would be painful. I don't know if I could do that. Man. Wow. So do you create mood boards or visual inspiration, musical inspiration? What's kind of your process as you're writing?
I definitely love to like go around on Pinterest and like hunt for pictures. I am not a good visual person. I have face blindness, so I can't imagine people's face. Like when I'm reading, the person's face is just blank. Like it will describe what they look like. It doesn't mean anything to me. So I tend to look for images that kind of reflect my main characters. So I kind of have something to go on. And then it's usually just the music. I kind of look for music that kind of helps to inspire it. Everything without lyrics, obviously, because that just distracts me. So that I can kind of get the vibes when I'm writing.
Okay, nice. So how do you balance the romance, the slow burn with the action, the suspensefulness of the story and plotline?
That is hard. I have another series I'm writing as well that's got more of the romance up front, so it's very interesting to like look at the two differences between it. This one, when I was writing book 1, I hadn't planned on there really being a romance. And then I was like, as I rewrote it, I was like, okay, I think I can see maybe where this romance goes. And I wanted it to feel very natural. So it's like these two people who end up working together and they start to have a friendship with each other. And then they realize as it's going on that, hey, maybe there's something else that I'm kind of feeling towards this person. So I didn't want it to take over the story because the story is very much about Nissa's journey and the community that she brings together. And then I have a lot of, obviously, the Vintress has a lot of baggage as well. A lot of these people have a lot of baggage. So it's kind of going through and dealing with that. And then it kind of just fell into place for book 3. Nissa was returning to her home, her witch community who had kind of rejected her. And the romance just kind of came out in this story that this was the person who was coming along, who was supporting her. And they finally had a talk about all of the terrible stuff that happens in book 2. And so it was just was perfect to go with the inner journey that Nissa was going through in book 3. I'm definitely there, and I try to make sure it's balanced. So I'm writing book 4 right now, and I want the relationship to be there, but I don't want it to be the main focus of the story. It's still the external plot. So it's very hard just kind of weaving it in, making sure I'm giving the reader enough that they get all the cute moments between them, because it's a very sweet romance.
I love that. So for you, what timeline does it take? Do you have like a daily word count goal? Do you have like a routine or ritual that you do, coffee, candle? Like what does that look like? Best time of day for you to write? Things like that.
I do. This year I went all out because my plan was to actually write 2 books and possibly a novella, which obviously I haven't done. I've only ever written 1 book a year. So I ended up going full on spreadsheet to figure out like when I can do it. But obviously, this series, because I have a pre-order, it's my main focus. Pretty much the start of the year, because I released the book in December, I give myself the rest of December off, and so I have about 3 months where I try to write. And I figured out the mornings are the best for me. That's when I'm creative. As soon as like 3 p.m. hits, I'm like, I'm done for it. I can't do anything. My brain no longer works in creativity anymore. So depending on how I am, I've been a little lax the last couple of weeks, but I would get my kiddo off to school, come back, and then try and sit down. And my aim is a minimum of 1,000 words. I've actually just got into Dictation, which makes it so much easier to get the words out. So last month I wrote 30,000 words just by keeping on, and I even skipped a whole week in that one. But yeah, very much in the morning, making sure I'm sitting down, I've eaten, I'm all good, and then I can just get the words out, and then I feel good. And I'm like, okay, now I can go and do all the other things that I have to get done today.
Is it doing dictation? Is it hard? Because like I feel like when I like do the speech to text, I feel like I'm backing it up and like fixing it because I feel like I didn't say that right. Like, is it hard?
It takes a bit of getting used to. I was originally doing it straight into like a Google Doc, and it's terrible because it doesn't get capitalization, doesn't get punctuation. It took me longer to go back and fix it. I ended up just using, what is it called? Whisper, I think is the app that I found. And it does a good job with most of it. It's not the best with understanding when something's dialogue or not. It can be a bit back and forth. But for the most part, it's really good with understanding. It messes up sometimes with my accent. I've had some very not safe for work things that have been put in there when I didn't say that. But the hardest thing I think is letting go of your inner filter and just like being able to flow, just to thinking of the scene and allow it to come out verbally. And so it's just like knowing that you'll make mistakes. So I'm like, oh, I'll be saying this. Oh, I didn't like that line. I'm just going to say it again. Later, I'll go back and delete the one I didn't like. I'm like, oh, I'll go back. I think this line would work here. But just keeping in the flow is the most important thing, because then it's like 40 minutes and I can get 1,000 words done.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Do you build in the beginning of each chapter kind of like a cliffhanger to keep the person moving forward through your story?
I definitely try, and nowadays, when I first was starting writing, I didn't understand this. I definitely try and give like a strong hook at the end of each chapter. It's nothing ever like super cliffhangery, but I do try and have that where you're like, oh, what is going to happen next? And then when you open up, giving you something that's kind of enticing so that you're like, oh, okay, no, I have to read this next chapter. I want to know what's going on.
Nice. I like that. So I thought we could do a couple of games in between our questions, just something fun. So the first game I have is character confessions. And I know like we don't want to spoil anything, but just as you could answer as your character the best you can with what you can answer. And you can switch between characters if you want to do that. That's fine. You don't have to stick with one. So what is your character's guilty pleasure?
Ooh, I would say, Nissa's, which she discovers in book 1, her guilty pleasure is baking, is something that she kind of comes into, and obviously eating all of the cookies that she bakes in one go.
She's like, girl after my own heart. I'll do that. I like that.
Right.
Who do you secretly like more out of your characters? Is there one that she has like more of an affinity to? Like, let's say for animals, you said there's a familiar in this book. Is there more than one animal familiar? Does she have a favorite? I know that's like a mom picking their favorite child, but that might be fun.
She only has the one familiar. And that is obviously a very strong bond. Would there be anyone that she likes more? I don't know. Lisa is very diplomatic. So she would probably never tell anyone that. She probably wouldn't even tell them that she likes the love interest. And just like, no, I love you all equally. You're all my friends.
So she'd hide that. Okay. All right. Let's see. What is their worst habit?
Well, I think I already said that with her self-doubt. Negative self-talk, if she's being very honest, is definitely her worst habit. And she's also someone who doesn't like to ask for help. She doesn't want to ask anyone to put themselves, in this case, in danger. She's very much like, no, this is my fault. I'm going to do it. And which is obviously a very bad thing when there's lots of people around who want to help her. So that's something she needs to overcome. And she's also a workaholic. She's very much like, I want to do all this. I've got to. So she works in the coffee shop. She bakes all the cookies. She brews all her potions. She has all of these different things.
Wow. Okay, I like that. Okay, so this is another fun game. This is a would you rather. And some of my questions I've been told I'm mean, so I'm sorry ahead of time. So, would you rather a physical book, an audiobook, or an ebook?
Audio. That one's easy for me. I don't really have time to read. And so usually if I'm reading an ebook, it's on my phone. But when I'm doing an audiobook, I can be doing my dishes, I can vacuum, I can do all of that fun stuff while I'm listening to it. So yeah, audiobook all the way.
Do you have a favorite narrator that you like to listen to?
There is one, and I can't think of his name off the top of my head. There's a couple of guys that I watch on TikTok. He is fantastic. I just know he has this like really big beard, but he's really fun to watch. These great voices for fantasy.
Is it Aiden Snow? One of them's last name is Snow.
Snow. Okay, there we go. Snow.
I was like, wait, I know that name. Yes.
Like AS.
I love his voice. I love that.
Oh, he does such a good job. Yeah, the other one, I wish I could remember him, but I don't know why Smith is stuck in my head, but I'm pretty sure it's Aaron though, but he does some fantasy books and he has a great, like, epic fantasy voice.
Huh?
And it's just like, he can just turn, I'm like, I listened to a book that I didn't even like just because he was narrating it. And I'm just like, I just want to listen to him.
I love that. Yeah, I just started to do narrator interviews along with author interviews. And I interviewed Teddy Hamilton, and then I have a couple interviews coming up. I'm hoping I can get some more of them because I'm like, I just want to know like the process for them because they're getting everything and it's, ready to go and how they think on bringing it to life. So I love to hear who people like.
Yes. The other one, I'd actually been working with the narrator. She calls herself Hell, Hel. And so she does it live sometimes. And so she narrated a short story of mine. And it was really interesting to listen to her do it. Like, we went through everything. So she asked me like about the characters, how to pronounce it, what they would sound like, any secrets. And so it was really fun to do that. And it was also hilarious because the first day she was doing it, she was first time back for a long time. And so she was messing up all of her lines, and which was hilarious. And then I was just listening to what she sent me, and it sounds perfect. You would never guess that sentence might have been like 3 things to find it up.
I follow
They do
her
such a
too.
good job.
I like her. Yeah.
Oh, she's so much fun.
It's incredible how they like brings, especially if they do like all these different sounds in their voices and they're like talking for like 5 different characters and they all sound different.
You just reminded me from that. Kevin R. Free is the one that I have to say who does the Murderbot Diaries, because like I listened to that over and over, and you would not guess that guy is doing all of those different accents. He does such a good job, and I'm like, I forget I'm listening to the one dude.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So this is the painful question. So, would you crack the spine of a paperback or ruin the dust jacket on the hardback?
I mean, I feel like cracking the spine because the dust jackets are so pretty that I just wouldn't be able to do that. But yeah, I think it's because I've also like had a lot of library books in my life, so I'm used to the spines looking terrible. So it's okay as long as the front looks fine.
Yeah. All right. So dinner with your favorite character or your favorite author?
I would probably say author, just because I think that it would be really fun. So I would probably I have 2 that would be up there, but I would probably pick T. Kingfisher. Because I love her sense of humor in her, and her world building. Like in the Saints of Steel series, it's just so much fun, and I laugh every time, even though I've heard them, like listening to them on audiobooks like 5-6 times, and I'm like, I still find them funny.
Yeah, they're really good.
I want to do that.
Yeah, that's a good one. So would you rather slow burn romance or enemies to lovers romance?
I like both, but if I had to pick, it's always going to be slow burn. If your characters are jumping into bed at 50% mark, it's not for me. I'm like, I like the yearning, I like the tension. As much as I'm just like, just kiss. I'm like, I don't want them to just kiss because I love that bit of like the stealing looks at each other. All of those cute moments are just adorable.
I love that. So tea or coffee?
Tea.
Tea.
Always tea for me.
Always tea. Me too. So if you could pick between, now I want to add in that one too. So I'm going to do 4. So Well, no, let's do it this way because your book's about a witch. So we'll take witch off the
Okay.
table. So you can't pick a witch. So vampire, werewolf, or fae.
I feel like I'd pick fae, even though I find I don't usually read fae stories because vampires are kind of overdone. As much as I love them, I was a huge underworld girly. Like Celine is just like my female main character. Werewolves I kind of like, but if it was shifter, I would have picked that because they're fun, especially when they're not like a wolf shifter. So,
Yeah. Okay.
but fae can have cool magic. They can be tricksters. I could never write them though. I'm not that smart. So
Jeez, I bet you could. I bet you could. So first line or last line?
I'm gonna say first line.
First line. Okay. All right. So this is another kind of fun one. So out of the characters in your story, it can be your main characters or it could be side characters. It could be either series that you're writing. Out of the main male or male figure characters in the stories, who
Mm-hmm.
would you date? Who would you marry? And who would you kick to the curb? Or who would you?
Oh, how can you say that? Because I love them all. That's why they're the male main characters. Who would be for me? Who would I date? I feel like I would date the love interest in the series that I'm writing, which is I have my little card for it. I don't know how well it's going to show up there. Oh, no, it's trying to blur it out.
Okay.
That one's Curses of the Betrayed. The love interest is a dragon shifter. He also has he can hear his dragon. They talk telepathically. They're like the one person, but they have separate entities. And I'm like, he's probably not the nicest person, but I love him with his growth in the stories. I'll say that. What was the other one? So that was who I'd date. When I had to kick to the curb, I'd probably marry. I would probably marry the one in the Lunar Order Chronicles, but I can't tell you who that is because that will spoil who it is.
Okay.
But he is an absolute cinnamon roll, especially for Nissa, even though he has a lot of mummy issues.
Okay.
He is very sweet, very loyal. You can't go wrong. Wants to learn how to bake cookies with Nissa. And then the other one that I would kick to the curb would be the one in my epic romantasy because I have to kick one. And his sassy, his very flirtatious, which would be fun, but I might get sick of it after a while. So I still love him to death, though.
Yeah. I would agree with. I would keep the cinnamon roll. I love cinnamon rolls, but I love like grumpy guys. The grumps, those are good too.
Yes.
So out of your female characters, who would be your best friend? Who would be your roommate? And who would you go on a road trip with?
Ooh, Nissa would probably be my best friend because she's very much a homebody as well. We could just chill out, talk about potions, eat cookies. Road trip. I would probably say road trip with my one from my other urban fantasy series because she's an assassin, so I know that she would keep me safe. I wouldn't want her as my roommate because she'd be coming home all the time, just like all bloody and needing help stitch up. I'm like, I can't deal with this drama. And then my epic romantasy would be Ashara because she is very loyal. She's a warrior, so I know that at home I would be safe, and we could just chill out and chat as well.
Nice, I like that. Okay. Let's see here. So out of the tropes, I know you said you love found family. So besides that one, which is your favorite to read and which is your favorite to write?
Okay. Well, it's this one feels like a cop out, so I might have to come with it. But obviously, strong female main character or strong female characters in general is something I always look for in books. I'm always wanting female leads, especially ones that are fighters. I will always write strong female leads, which is why this series was fun because it wasn't the typical badass wielding swords. What other ones do I like? So there's one that's really fun to write. I would probably say, well, I was going to say Enemies to Lovers is fun to write, but that one's a little easy too because we all have that. The one that was the most fun to write so far was definitely The Animal Companion.
Okay.
Writing Danica was just it's so much fun to write. It's so much fun just to have like an animal thinking about like what would they do. They're not going to be shrugging or shaking their head or doing these things. And so it's like thinking about like how she would react. How would a fox react? There's lots of IG videos of foxes that got watched so I could figure out what they do. And then what's fun to read? There is a lot that I love, so that's why I'm like trying to pin it down. One that I think, well, see, this one's also one that I want to write, but it's kind of anything that flips the typical tropes. So there's one book that I just picked up because it was the female is the knight and the male is the prince. So it's like a bodyguard, but it's the other way around where it's her protecting him. And I think that's such a fun dynamic. Like doing things like that is so much fun because we have so many where it's like, oh, it's the guard and she's the princess. I'm like, no, give it to me something else. I love that.
I like that. So is there a trope that you haven't written yet that is like on your like bucket list?
Ooh, there's a lot of tropes. The one that I didn't realize that I kind of wanted to write and it wasn't coming up, it's one that will be in a series that I'm planning, is actually a double agent. And
Ooh.
so I have a character who I'm like, oh, like, what if she actually works for the bad guys? And then she has to be the double agent. I think it's like Alias. That was what was that in the
Yes,
early
I loved
2000s?
Alias. Oh, I loved
That
that
was
show.
so good. And I'm like, it wasn't until I was like planning this out that I was like, I think that's where this came from, that my love for
Mhm.
double agent. So I was like, oh, like, what if she has to like take it down from the inside? And then, I mean, this one, it's very clear one's the bad guys and one's the good guys. But
Yeah.
it's just kind of that fun trope. And I don't think we get to see it enough.
Yeah, we don't. That would be so cool. Like you had me right at that. Like if you write a book like that, I will read it because I loved Alias. I love it. I have all of the series on like DVD still,
Mm.
and I love them. They're so good. So, out of your characters, let's say that you're at a party and it's gotten to be a little bit fun and there's maybe some adult beverages involved. Who's most likely to get into trouble out of your characters?
Ooh, would get into trouble the most. There is one scene in book 3 where they do go drinking, and it's actually Nissa's brother is one of the ones that gets into the most trouble. But there is a Nephilim in the series that she has a lot of banter with. It's kind of a love-hate relationship between them. And I could definitely see him, Nathaniel, getting very messy. He'd just be like, yeah, I'm just going to drink anything. His arrogance would just go off the charts when he started drinking.
I love that. So, going back to your process and writing, for you, what scenes are more difficult to write?
It can depend a lot. My biggest ones is when there's a lot of description. When I'm like, I need to really set the scene, describe what's going on, describe how things look. I am the worst at that. That bane of my existence. I'm just like, I don't know, there's a road, there's buildings. Like, how do I describe this? Anything like that where I have to set up somewhere new, I definitely struggle with. There's a lot of scenes that I think will be hard, obviously, like very emotional scenes when there's a lot of dialogue, but I've actually found of late that they've come easier to me. Like the words just tend to flow, which usually wasn't something that was one of my strengths, but maybe I'm just hitting the right notes with these ones. But I mean, the other one would be action scenes because I love them so much. I know how I want them to look. And so it's a struggle not to break things down. Okay, she's got to like block it. And so I'd be like, okay, like do this. And then does that work? And how would she be positioned? And I'd write too much detail and everything feels like it's slowing down because we're
Okay.
doing this real slow motion. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, those are finding the rhythm with the fight scenes was hard.
Yeah. So then on the flip side, what are the easier scenes for you to write?
Anything fun when it's just like a silly scene that's going on, or like one of the first chapters in the first book is Nissa. She's going to try and get this job at the coffee shop, and they're like, okay, go bake us some cookies. Here's the instructions, and she's just has no idea what she's doing, freaking out. There's sentient ovens that she's worried about, and so it's just like silly little scenes like that. They're just so fun to kind of throw everything together. And I'm like, I probably have to rein the back in after, but those ones just are so easy to write.
I love that. So sentient ovens.
Grumpy sentient ovens.
Grumpy. Because you have like side characters like animals, and then now you're having another layer where there's like other things that can do things. And I love that. Ooh, I'm excited to read this. I love that. So, what has been the most surprising thing you have learned, or the most profound thing you've learned about your writing journey or being a writer and an author?
Yes, it's like finding a way to be able to express, I would say myself, but just like feelings in general, life lessons, because you wouldn't think that like, oh, this is just like a fun urban fantasy book. But I always want to have something deeper and emotional connected to it. And it was like realizing that I could do this, that I could have these powerful stories while having these fun moments and keeping it lighthearted. And it's meant a lot to me. Like in book 2 of my series, it kind of, when I was planning it, took a bit of a turn because Nissa goes through some things in book 1 and has a very traumatic experience. And most main characters were just like, oh, that happened. Okay, life goes on.
Yeah.
And then I realized, no, she's going to have PTSD from this. This is going to be a thing. And it became the whole story of her struggling with it. And one feedback that I got, I had a beta reader go through it. I didn't actually realize that he was a veteran himself. And he told me that it was one of the most realistic depictions of PTSD that he had seen. And like he's had a lot of friends who have gone through that. And it was that I could express something like that I can show this real thing that is going on wrapped up in this fantasy story and trying to help explain like what's going on, the thought process behind it, and like to have that kind of impact is absolutely terrifying and amazing at the same time.
Yeah. That was probably a really proud I made it moment, like having that interaction with that reader.
Yeah, because I mean, I set out to depict PTSD. I obviously could only use Google searches and from what I could find reading articles. And I was hoping that I was doing it justice, but to get that, to know that I had done such a good job with it, made it all worthwhile. Because I'm like, I know people might not like reading that because this is not what they've expected, especially after book 1. But I felt it was something that we need in books. We need to show that these are real people, even though they're fantasy characters.
For me as a reader, when I go read books like that have these types of things in there, it makes me, the person who went through something traumatic, feel seen and not like I'm wrong for having the emotions and the feelings that I have, that it's not just to sweep it under the rug and act like it didn't happen, that it could happen to anybody else. It's not just something wrong with me or something I did, that it's like globally it could happen to anyone. I love that when books have that.
Yeah. It's you need these people to act like real people, because otherwise it doesn't hit the same when you're reading it.
No, it doesn't. So I love when that is in books, and you're not sugarcoating it. I feel like sometimes I'll read a book and they have it in there, like they're saying it's about it, but then it's like glossed over so quickly, or like the main character gets over it like that. And I'm like, that is not real. Like, that is not real at all.
And that was one thing that I felt, like I'm like it's a whole book, she struggles with it, but the book's only like a week. And so I made sure when I came back in book 3 that I said like, she's going to a therapist. She is talking about these. So we kind of skip seeing the therapist part, but we have her bringing that up again, like, hey, I am getting better, things aren't perfect, but so
yeah, I like that. I think that's important. So if you could go in a time machine back and see your younger writing self, what would you tell yourself knowing what you know now?
You actually have to sit down and start writing if you want to write a book. That would be the main one. But if I could give them some, also good advice, it would definitely be to write stories that are in your heart, that compel you. Don't just write what you think people want to read, but to know that the stories that you find interesting, the ideas that you come up with, there are readers for them. So keep on going, get them out there. But you do have to sit down and actually write it.
Yes, actually, that's the key. You have to actually do it. So at this same meetup, what would your younger self say to you, seeing who you are now?
They would probably like, wait, you live in America now? I think that they would be really proud that, oh, okay, there is actually a job out there that you can do, that you can be creative, and that don't let your fears hold you back. That was one of the things I overcame. I left Australia with my sister. We moved to Canada, and that was the most terrifying thing I had ever done. But I grew a lot as a person, overcame a lot of issues from that. So it's definitely just about taking that step, doing things that seem absolutely terrifying, because maybe you'll end up in the US married to an American and your sister will live a couple miles away married to a different American.
That's so great. What part of Canada did you guys move to?
We moved to BC. We went to Whistler. We're working the ski resort. We didn't realize that the ski resorts are pretty much filled with Australians, but we lived there for about 8 years. And then we both met Americans, we were looking for Canadians. We couldn't find anyone.
That's so great. So in your opinion, what makes a great story?
Heart. It's something that I've always said whenever I talk about stories. You can always tell when a story has a strong heart to it.
Mhm.
There is something that's compelling it, that you connect with it without realizing, because it's like I love like action and fighting. Occasionally I like reading like cozy stories, but they all have to have that strong inner journey to really make you connect to it, and for it to have that profound change on you, and not just be like, oh, that was fun, next book. But you've got the ones where you're coming back and like, oh, you're reading it 20 times because it has that emotional connection.
Yeah, I love that too. I love to reread. Would you rather reread your least favorite book every month or never read your favorite book again?
Never read my favorite book again, because I have no time in my life for bad books. I've DNF'd after the first paragraph. So as much as I know that I'd be like, I want to read that again. I'm actually a terrible rereader and will only do it if I have an audiobook.
Okay.
Just because I just don't have the time. I have so many books I want to read, and the only way I'm going to be able to get to them is if I don't reread. So I have like my comfort. Like if you told me that I couldn't like listen to the Murderbot Diaries again, I would probably cry, because I absolutely love it and it's such a comfort for me. But I don't have time for bad books.
Yeah. It makes me so sad to think that I won't make it through my TBR.
Oh my god, it just grows longer.
It just grows more and more and more. Well, my last question for you is, what message do you want readers to take away from after finishing your books? Because you have more than one.
Ooh, yes. I mean, one of the central I call them hearts of my story for I think all of my series is hope.
Mhm.
Obviously in many different facets, but for most of them I want, if you finish this series when I finished writing it, it would be that there is hope for the community. Sorry, hope for the future, hope because of your community, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, even with all of these terrible things happening, which I feel might help in present day, that
Yeah.
things deteriorate in this book. It ends with war, so, and that things will get better. My other series, a lot of them are definitely about self-discovery. So it would also be hoping that no matter which book that they were reading, that they would take a look at themselves and maybe not be so critical about who they are, realize how strong they actually are from what they've been through. And just to be kinder to themselves.
I love that. That's so important. Yeah, hope and not being so hard on yourself. We're our own worst critics. It's horrible. Like
Yes.
the self-talk a lot of us have for our internal dialogue. So that's definitely a good message to take away from.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll link her information below. You have her 3 books to get through, so you'll be, if you start now, you'll be just in time for the December release. We can all binge read them, and then we can all have a party when it comes out in December. And you said you had a pre-order up for it now.
Yes.
Are you going to sell on your website for those of us, me, that like signed books? Is that an option?
Yes. Yes. If you do head to my website, it links to my Shopify store. So I do have my paperbacks. You can get a regular paperback cheaper than you can on Amazon. And I also do obviously the signed ones. And I usually give you some goodies. I had these really adorable chibis made of my main characters. So I usually like to slip them in because I'm a sucker for art.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try to make my prices the best. Or
I like
shop
that.
at your local indie bookstore. Definitely do that too.
Yeah, I like to. My 2 normal go places are indie bookstores or directly from the author, which I usually try to just buy directly from the author, especially because the amount of work that you guys put into these books. Well, join me next time as we get another look behind the book. And like I said, you can follow her below. Definitely like and subscribe and send it to one of your witchy friends so she can fangirl with you. So thank you again so much for coming on. It was so great talking to you, and I cannot wait to read this series. It sounds so good.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I always love to talk about books, especially when it's my own.
Exactly. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.